Sup, you beautiful bastards? Hope you had a fantastic Monday. Welcome back to the DeFranco Show, and let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is the incredibly unexpected but massive outbreak of Ligma that you may have seen online. And it's one of the reasons why you may have seen the news. Popular Fortnite streamer Ninja reportedly passed away this morning. This due to a new and rare disease known as Ligma, to which many people responded, what's Ligma? And then many other people online responded, Ligma balls. It was a dick joke that was meant to be fake news / a hoax, and now it's hit memedom. As far as how this started, it appears a user on Instagram by the name of Ninja Hater posted this picture of Harambe and others saying, "Join us, Ninja," with the caption, "Spread this, let's make fake news, OC." Someone then along the way added the disease of Ligma, and then it was off to the races. Now, as far as Ninja's initial reaction to this, he did not appear to be a fan.
Yo, mods, let's start banning all of the Ligma stuff, please. Just like start with like a 24-hour ban, and then just go straight to bans. Guys, literally, it's a dick joke, dude, and it's getting old.
And unfortunately for Ninja, as we have all learned on the internet, once you tell the internet that you do not want to see something, that you want to try and stop something, that is pretty much all the internet will give you for a while. Right, whether it be that zoo issuing a statement saying, please stop with the Harambe memes, or that one picture of Beyonce that we learned that she wasn't a fan of, or when we learned the news that UC Davis tried to pay a ton of money to remove this picture from the internet, or smaller stakes but closer to home last week during a live stream when someone tipped me and called me daddy, and I said, hey, you know what, unless you're my kids, don't call me daddy, and then everyone proceeded to call me daddy because in the moment while I was live streaming, I forgot the rules. But that said, it appears that Ninja has now given in to the internet because he left a comment on a video that talked about this and said, "Rip Ninja, that damn Ligma." And that's essentially the story. If you didn't know, now you know. And as far as if this is going to go away or not, it ultimately comes down to how much people want it to stop. And if they want it to stop a lot, it will then continue for much longer. Because as we've discussed, that is how the internet works. Now, all of that said, I know that this was a joke. It was kind of just childish fun, where I do want to end this. While Ligma is not a real thing, in the past 5 weeks, there has actually been an outbreak of BOFA in the Northeast. And reportedly, the reason that we're seeing such high numbers, we're seeing such a spread, is that around 73% of people in proximity of BOFA get BOFA. And so if there is a way I can take this kind of joke story into something serious, please be careful with BOFA. I know that it's a sensitive thing for some people, arguably most people, but I wanted to put it out there. That's where I'm gonna end that one. Then in other interesting international news, let's look to Cuba. And there what we've seen is that former President Raul Castro has proposed a new constitution. And this is a massive, but also not so massive piece of news. So while Raul Castro is no longer president, he does head a commission that drafts constitutional changes. And here are some of the key points of what he has now put out there. It removes the word communism from the constitution, okay, interesting, but maintains that the country's socialist system is irrevocable, adding that the Communist Party is the only legal one. And so while the first part of that announcement is one of the things that you may have seen in the headline, it seems like in the details, maybe not really that much of a change. That said, according to the Miami Herald, the draft would limit presidents to only 2 terms and require them to be no older than 60 at the start of the first term, also calling for a division of power at the government's top leadership. So very interesting, but once again, this is not going to be a democracy. Socialist system is irrevocable, Communist Party is the only legal one, and reportedly Parliament will continue to elect the president rather than voters, which is something that many Cubans want to change. And also, according to reports, some of the changes look to open the path to same-sex marriage. But overall, as far as representation, a real change in the country when it comes to the political system, it doesn't really seem to be there. And also an important thing to note is that these changes are being proposed just 3 months after Castro's hand-picked president was put into place. Right, you've had the Castros in power for 60+ years. Most of that was Fidel Castro. And to me, a lot of this seems like Raul Castro trying to figure out how the Communist Party can be stronger even when he's gone. But as far as the changes meaning the people are more free, they're closer to democracy, proper representation, that's not really what we're seeing here. But still, that said, any kind of shakeup or change like this, whether it be proposed or actually put into place, it's very interesting to watch what happens. But from that, I want to share some stuff I love today, and today in Awesome brought to you by SeatGeek. And SeatGeek, if you don't know, is the fantastic ticket app that takes confusion out of buying tickets for live events, whether it be a concert, a comedy show, a sporting event, or whatever. They put all the tickets in one place, they give them 0 to 100 scores so you know if you're getting a good deal or not. I've got the app on my phone, and it's by far the easiest way to buy tickets, whether it be something I'm looking forward to down the road or something that's kind of last minute. And there's never been a better time to check it out. You've got baseball season, football season's coming up, you got concerts this summer with Drake, Taylor Swift, whoever. And best of all, for you newcomers, go to SeatGeekPhil.com, you download the app, make sure you enter an offer code PHIL, and they will give you $20 off your first ticket purchase. And the first bit of awesome today is we got a video that tries to answer a question I feel like we've all woken up with. What if you detonated a nuclear bomb in the Mariana glass trench? Right, we've all asked ourselves that question. Then we had Evan Peters breaking down his most iconic characters. Then we had Life Noggin talking about social media addiction in a very Life Noggin way. We had Epic Mealtime giving us vanilla Coke ribs because of course they did. And of course, coming out of San Diego Comic-Con, we got a ton of trailers, and I'll just start with the Aquaman trailer. The trailer makes it look amazing, but I am going to keep my expectations in check just because, well, you know why. Then we got a trailer for Alita Battle Angel. We got the Season 9 trailer of Walking Dead, the trailer for Disenchantment. We got the official trailer for Godzilla King of the Monsters. We got our first teaser trailer for Shazam. And if you want to see the full versions of everything I just shared, the secret link of the day, really anything I talked about today, links as always are in the description down below. And then let's talk about the weather and then specifically look at Japan. Just a few weeks ago, we were seeing all-time heat records being set all over the world. And in addition to that, Japan specifically is also recovering from recent flooding. Flooding that displaced 1.6 million people. Reportedly, there were around 200 deaths. And now, in the past day, while many in Japan are still trying to recover from that flooding, we're seeing all-time highs in Japan. Reports coming in that they've passed the previous high of 105.8 degrees Fahrenheit to now 106. And so now, because of this, there are reports that tens of thousands of people are going to the hospital with symptoms of heat stroke. According to the Kyoto News Agency, at least 70 people have died thus far from the heat. And according to some experts, these bad numbers may get worse. And a big part of that is, in addition to the heat, there are many normally cooler parts of the country where it is uncommon to have air conditioning. And so it's been really hard for many that are not used to this to escape the heat. And then let's talk about one of the most requested stories from over the weekend, and that is the story around James Gunn. James Gunn, of course, director of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2. He's been fired by Disney. And it's all connected to a series of offensive tweets he put out between 2008 and 2012. And his tweets hit on a variety of topics, but the primary three that people were talking about, you had rape, AIDS, and pedophilia. And some of the old tweets that came to light included, February 2009, James Gunn tweeted, "The best thing about being raped is when you're done being raped and it's like, phew, this feels great not being raped." Another reading, "The Expendables was so manly I fucked the shit out of the little pussy boy next to me. The boys are back in town." And in 2011 he wrote, "I'm doing a big Hollywood film adaptation of The Giving Tree with a happy ending. The tree grows back and gives the kid a blowjob." And a lot of these came to light because you had places like the Daily Caller and other individuals searching through James Gunn's Twitter history, and it blew up. And James Gunn ended up apologizing Thursday night, tweeting, "Many people who have followed my career know when I started I viewed myself as a provocateur, making movies and telling jokes that were outrageous and taboo. As I have discussed publicly many times, as I've developed as a person, so has my work and my humor. Adding my days saying something just because it's shocking and trying to get a reaction are over. In the past, I've apologized for humor of mine that hurt people. I truly felt sorry and meant every word of my apologies. For the record, when I made these shocking jokes, I wasn't living them out. I know this is a weird statement to make and seems obvious, but still here I am saying it. Anyway, that's the completely honest truth. I used to make a lot of offensive jokes. I don't anymore. I don't blame my past self for this, but I like myself more and feel like a more full human being and creator today. Love you to you all." But still, after that apology, Walt Disney Studios fired him. Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn issuing this statement, "The offensive attitudes and statements discovered on James's Twitter feed are indefensible and inconsistent with our studio's values, and we have severed our business relationship with him." And following this announcement, James Gunn released another statement. He referred to his past jokes as stupid, not at all funny, wildly insensitive, and certainly not provocative like I had hoped, adding, "I understand and accept the business decisions taken today. Even these many years later, I take full responsibility for the way I conducted myself then," and then issuing another apology. We also over the weekend saw Senator Ted Cruz jump into the mix, tweeting out a photo of James Gunn's former tweet saying, "Wow, these James Gunn tweets are just horrible. Child rape is no laughing matter. As Texas SG, I handled far too many child sexual assault. Truly evil. I'm glad Disney fired him, but if these tweets are true, he needs to be prosecuted." Now, following this, you had some people calling Ted Cruz a hypocrite because in the past he actually endorsed Roy Moore. Although on that note, I will say that Ted Cruz did end up rescinding his endorsement. That after the Post came out with their article alleging that he had relationships with 4 teenage girls. But you also had people accusing Cruz of exploiting this situation. Andrew Kaczynski tweeting, "Ted Cruz knows these were terrible jokes. What this really is a wink and hat tip to those on right who dug these up in hopes they will support his future ambitions." To which Cruz responded, "Andrew, how do you know they're jokes? Several tweets refer directly to his having had sex with kids. If someone tweets confessing to a crime repeatedly, it should be investigated. If he's telling the truth, if he has in fact molested young children, then he should be prosecuted." To which some people responded, "Well, what if it was just locker room talk?" And then that argument and debate just continued and is probably still going on right now. Additionally, while there's been a lot of disgust and hate thrown James Gunn's way, there have also been a good number of people supporting him. And most notably, you had the cast of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Dave Bautista tweeting, "I will have more to say, but for now, all I will say is this. James Gunn is one of the most loving, caring, good-natured people I have ever met. He's gentle and kind and cares deeply for people and animals. He's made mistakes. We all have. I'm not okay with what's happening to him." Adding, "What will you do when the cyber Nazis attack you? Who will stand by defy you? Who will cowardly distance themselves from you? Who will punish you for horrible jokes in the past instead of defending you for inspiring millions? Millions. What happened here is so much bigger than Guardians 3. James Gunn, myself, Disney, etc. This was a cyber-Nazi attack that succeeded. Unless we start to unite together against this crap, whether people are offended or not, it's going to get much worse, and it can happen to anyone. And what he's seemingly referencing there are the right-wing personalities that really got behind this story and were petitioning for Disney to do something about Gunn. Chris Pratt tweeting out Bible verse James 1:19. Understand this, my dear brothers and sisters, let every person be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Zoe Saldana tweeting, it's been a challenging weekend, I'm not gonna lie. I'm pausing myself to take everything in before I speak out of turn. I just want everyone to know I love all members of my Guardians of the Galaxy family. Always will. You also had people like comedian Patton Oswalt jumping into the mix. And Oswalt took aim at one person in particular, and that person was Mike Cernovich. Mike was one of the people that seemed to really be at the center of getting this story out there. And Oswalt tweeted, this is one of the less disgusting tweets from Mike Cernovich, the dude who after running a Gamergate-style smear campaign just got James Gunn fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Okay, have a good weekend. Then including a screenshot of what appears to be Mike Cernovich tweeting, have you guys ever tried, quote, raping a girl without using force? Try it. It's basically impossible. Date rape does not exist. Mike Cernovich then responded, seemingly trying to expose Patton Oswalt, sharing a tweet from Patton that read, let NAMBLA members fuck anyone they want. Am I so crazy for wanting my kid to grow up in a safer world? Mike tweeting, NAMBLA is an organization trying to legalize pedophilia. Another Cernovich hater caught with the pedophile stuff. But what Mike seems to not realize, most likely because he did an advanced search for a specific word on a specific account, he actually promoted Oswalt's tweet out of context. In 2013, Twitter didn't really have threading capabilities, so if you wanted to pair something, you had to end the tweet with like one of two, or you just tweet things back to back. And so Patton Oswalt's full tweet reads, you think anyone should be able to buy a gun for any reason, you idiot? Well, why don't we just let NAMBLA members fuck anyone they want? Am I so crazy for wanting my kid to grow up in a safer world? So obviously, if you're someone that is super pro Second Amendment, you won't like the full statement, but to showcase Patton Oswalt as saying that, you know, NAMBLA members should be able to fuck any kid, it was a complete misrepresentation of what was being said there. And you're probably going to see a ton of Patton Oswalt said this horrible thing news, and here's the thing, as a comedian or just as a flawed human being, he may have said stuff, but stuff like this that was still being retweeted just before today's show, where it appears that he said rap is performed by monkeys in expensive clothes. It's another two-part tweet that reads, and I'm sorry, but I fucking hate Fox News, bunch of race-baiting corporate shills, all of their medieval fact-free claptrap is performed by monkeys in expensive clothes. Claptrap being nonsensical ideas. But he has a whole slew of those, so those are gonna be probably popping up. You also have people pointing to other things in Mike's past, most notably, you kind of see it pop up again and again, is his promotion of the Pizzagate conspiracy theory. And it feels like that's what we often see with situations like this. Someone gets exposed or something is brought up and then people go, well, what about you? You're a hypocrite for acting offended. Which I will say, I get why that happens, but I often feel like our efforts to point out someone's hypocrisy or someone as also bad, it seems sometimes so rampant that we constantly lose sight of what the initial story was. But with that said, I mean, we could talk about a lot of the individual reactions that happened because they are still happening right now. But as far as where I personally land on this, I feel like a big chunk of this story comes down to a debate that we've had time and time again with just different figures from different walks of life. At what point can something you said a long time ago not be used against you now? Right, we have lots of examples, but we don't have a ton of one-to-one examples. You know, there's instances of, okay, the person in question, were they like 15? Were they early 20s? Were they in their 40s? What was the topic or joke? What sensitivities did it hit on? How long ago was it? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Right, and also how much of this are teams playing for one another? Right, and once again, this is not a one-to-one comparison, but a lot of people have been trying to draw parallels to what happened with Roseanne Barr and what's happening with James Gunn. That you have people that are having genuine reactions, but then a lot of what's happening is being fueled by partisanship. You take down one of ours, we're gonna take down one of yours. And as far as James Gunn's tweets, I will say, I think that they're disgusting, they're weird, they're not really funny. It very much seems like an attempt at shock jock, edgelord humor that doesn't land. And actually, on that specific note of someone just trying to be edgy and it just comes off stupid and offensive, I mean, I incredibly relate to that. Like, this isn't news for the old schoolers, the people that have watched me for like 7 to 10 years, but it's like a lot of my early content was what the kids would call problematic. There was a lot of deeply offensive shock jock, fail joke bullshit. Like, I've said things where if I came across someone that said those exact same things, I'd punch that person in their fucking face. But also, I guess maybe the way that I'm positioned, at least right now, is because I've had this ongoing direct connection to the people that watch this show, there's been kind of this understanding of, okay, you've grown past that. Right, Phil, you're still an asshole in different ways, but you're not that guy. And in that way, when I look back to my stupid bullshit, I actually become very proud of who I've become. Now, people in the past and people now and people in the future will maybe take those moments to try and delegitimize something that I'm saying right now. And so it makes me wonder if with you specifically, and I don't mean this about me, I just mean with anyone? At what point do you separate someone's past from who they are today? And are there certain things that will forever be attached? Right? And are there certain things that never get disconnected, like actual physical violence? That would be one of them for me. Or is the thinking that there is actually kind of a gray area for this stupid, and it's actually just sides using whatever ammunition they can get to delegitimize or attack the other side? And so with that said, I just want to pass it off to you. What are your thoughts around that? Then, as you've most likely seen at this point, we had Trump in the news. And one of the main standouts is that when many people woke up, they found that a little after midnight, President Trump tweeted to Iranian President Rouhani, "Never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious." Now, as far as what Trump is referring to, on Sunday, Rouhani had said, "America must understand well that peace with Iran is the mother of all peace, and war with Iran is the mother of all wars." Also warning Trump not to play with the lion's tail because you will regret it eternally. But at the same time, Rouhani also said that he wouldn't rule out peace talks. Then came Donald Trump's tweet, and then as far as Iran's response, Iran's state-owned Islamic Republic news agency calling Trump's tweet a passive reaction, and a senior officer in Iran's Revolutionary Guard went further, referring to Trump's remarks as psychological warfare. And as of this morning, we also saw John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor, saying that the president told him, if Iran does anything at all to the negative, they will pay a price like few countries have ever paid before. Now with this situation, what I will say is that it's important to note that it's not happening in a bubble. Pretty much everything we're seeing now is the fallout from the president of the United States saying that we're pulling out of the Iran deal. And in addition to that, of course, Trump ordered increased American sanctions. And so the timing of all of this is a big note because we're just 3 weeks away from the first round of banking sanctions being reimposed. Additionally, the US State Department has been pushing all oil buyers to cut off all Iranian crude imports by November. And on the other side of this month, we saw Iran threaten to close the Strait of Hormuz. And that is a massive deal because that strait is arguably the world's most important transit lane for crude oil. It handles about 2/3 of the world's seaborne cargoes of crude oil and other petroleum liquids. And while this would largely affect other countries because 80% of the oil that goes through the strait ends up in Asia, shutting down the strait could also hurt Americans and drastically drive up oil prices in the States. So that's where we are with this situation right now. As far as where it goes from here, that's yet to be seen. There have been a lot of people drawing parallels to Donald Trump's statements here and what went down with North Korea. There's a lot of fire and fury talk, my button's bigger than your button talk. But then you fast forward that situation, there's a conversation, a handshake, there's a whole summit. Although as far as where that's going right now, I mean, that's its own video. But one of the main points there is just a few months later, President Trump had a completely different tone about Kim Jong-un. It went from Rocket Man to he's a leader who greatly cares about his people. So because of that example, because people are drawing up that parallel, you have people wondering, is that essentially what we're seeing with Iran now? Or whether it be a negotiating tactic or just an escalation to drive it to a certain place, is this going to become something more? Ultimately, we'll all have to wait to see. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. And remember, this is the PDS. It is not just a show. It is a conversation. So whether it be the last story, the first one, anything in between, let me know what you're thinking in those comments down below. Also, remember, if you like this video, you like these daily Philip DeFranco shows, hit that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss new episodes. But that said, of course, as always, my name's Philip DeFranco. You've just been filled in. I love yo faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.